The Women's Tour highlights now on ITV4.
Aviva, proud sponsor of the Aviva Women's Tour 2016.
Tommy's still on the right and she's got off a bike advantage over Voss. And the crowds have turned out in their thousands. Look at the sheer power. Voss has gone to the front and nobody can match the electric pace.
World champions, Olympic champions, national champions and defending champions have all made their way to these shores for what is rapidly becoming the blue ribbon stage race on the women's calendar. It's the third edition, and this time there's a difference because, as any parent will tell you, a 3-year-old can suddenly become a whole lot more demanding. Welcome to the Aviva Women's Tour.
In the women's calendar, it's one of the biggest stage races we have, one of the biggest races overall.
We've got world champions, Commonwealth champions and national champions in the lineup. Look at that pace, it really is beginning to increase.
All these children lining up the streets, all these people coming to watch these women race.
Oh, Armitstead takes it on the life and Jolene Dore gets it, the Belgian road champion. Majerus, the Luxembourg champion, she takes the stage win. Yes, on the line, it's Brunel that takes it from Johansson. And there is the winner then of the Aviva Tour, Lisa Brunel, and she is celebrating.
Well, hope that sets the scene for you. It's amazing to think the race is only a couple of years old. We're down here at the seafront in Southwold where the race this year is about to get underway, and I'm delighted to say I'm joined by Helen Wyman. You'll be with me all the way around this race this year. A veteran of the first 2 editions of the Women's Tour. What were they like to race?
The race started at a really high level and it's stepped it up every year, and to me the best thing about this race is the crowd support and the people that come out onto the streets and shout and cheer, and the kids that come out from the schools. And to me, racing, it was just absolutely fantastic atmosphere.
Yeah, I mean, that's an easy thing to say, but it does really matter, and it is really true in this race, isn't it? It
does, and you really notice it. And you know, one of the riders said from my team said to me last year, "Oh, all I heard was Hannah and Helen," and you know, that's really cool. And I think the more people that come out, the more exciting it is for the riders, and it's our job, but we love racing in front of big crowds.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, why are you not racing this year? Why have you drawn the short straw, and why are you doing this telly job instead?
Because the event's such a great event, they've stepped up to the highest level of racing, and unfortunately my team can't ride that race, but we'll be back next year, we'll be back at the right level, and the good thing from it is that every rider in this race are in a professional team, and that's a fantastic thing for the sport in general.
Yeah, I mean, the organisers right from the word go said that it was their intention to grow this race, and true to their word, this edition is very different, isn't it, and much harder.
Yeah, they've increased the distance back-to-back 140-kilometre stages, which is really good for women's cycling, and they've also gone into a hillier region in the middle of the race, and when you do 2 back-to-back stages and then you hit the hills, everyone's a little bit tired, and the people that can recover the best between those stages are the ones that you'll see getting the best results on the hilly days.
Yeah, really enticing prospect. We're in very familiar turf here in Suffolk for the Women's Tour, but after that it all gets rather unfamiliar. Let's have a look at the next 5 days and how they look on paper at least. It's a fast and flat opening stage crossing from Suffolk into Norfolk. Then it's Atherstone to Stratford-upon-Avon, new territory for the race. After that it's time to climb from Ashbourne to Chesterfield for the Queen stage. Then Northampton to Stoke, another selective race, before a simpler looking finale when the race leaves Northampton and finally comes to rest in Kettering. So from Southwold to Kettering in 5 really quite difficult steps, and step 3 is probably the hardest of them all, isn't it, the Queen stage?
Yeah, definitely, and these riders are all professional riders and they're used to racing week in, week out on the hilly stages, and the organiser said to me that it's very similar to the classic style races that you see in Belgium early in the season, like Tour of Flanders, and we all know Lizzie Armitstead won that, so I think as well that you have to remember the next stage after is also very hilly, and not to the same extent, but I lived in Rugby and I can tell you there's no flat.
Very little flat anywhere. So, I mean, Lizzie Armitstead is a name, absolutely, we should mention, the world champion, but a resurgent Mariana Voss, Emma Johansson, arguably in the form of her life to some extent, and the defending champion, Lisa Brennauer. Those four big names, should we look elsewhere as well?
I think in terms of breakaways, definitely look into the other teams. But I think in terms of the actual overall stage, I think, yeah, I mean, Lizzie has to be the favourite in this race and Wiggle have an incredible strong team as well at the event with British sponsors, so that's going to be important to them. But I mean, Bowles Dolmans have just destroyed the women's racing this season, so yeah.
Well, the women's racing scene in the summer kind of starts with this women's tour, and it's a great form guide in what is a very important year for all these riders, with Rio looming large in their thoughts. Let's hear from some of the favourites.
I do every race as hard as I can. There's no way that I'd put a number on and not give it everything. So expect me to be aggressive and expect me to want it, but if it doesn't come off, then it means that, you know, I've still got a bit of improvement to go before Rio.
If I look where I come from this winter, which, at what point I started training and where I am now, I think I have to be really happy and grateful what kind of racing I'm doing now. And Women's Tour is a really nice race, 5 days of hard and interesting racing, so that will be good in the build-up.
I mean, of course, we're all aiming for winning this tour, and I'm here with a pretty strong team, and we will do our best. But it's a new year, new tour, new competition, and so I think we have to see from day to day how this tour is going, and from there we can build on our GC ambitions.
It's not about the big goals, it's about the journey as well, and I think you need to just take in every moment you can and every training and every race you do and just enjoy it and make most out of it. And yeah, I know Rio is important, but it's also important here because I choose to be here, and I think that's a thing that, well, that I try to appreciate every day.
So the thoughts of some of the biggest names in women's cycling, but Helen, give us, if you like, a dark horse, a cheeky outsider, someone who might just make their mark, who you wouldn't necessarily have heard of?
To me, I think there are two riders, Ashley Moorman Passio and Emma Pooley. And Ashley's just come back from Germany, where she had fantastic results there, and Emma Pooley is trying to get herself into the Rio Olympic team. And we saw last year she got in a really good break. She's a real breakaway specialist, and on her day, she's one of the best climbers in the world, and so hopefully she'll be really aggressive in this race.
Yeah, amazing to see Emma Pooley back on this race, and probably a rider we have heard of, actually, much like Hannah Barnes, who's really making her mark, and her sister, who's in the form of her life as well. That's an interesting little subplot, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And Alice is super young, Hannah's sister, and you know, she's had some really good results in Britain this year, and it'll be really exciting to see how she races against the very best riders in the world, and that's always inspirational for a 19-year-old to actually get a good result, because then they know where their future can be, and she's obviously seen what her sister can do, and you know, in America she's almost unbeatable in a sprint, and so I think Hannah and Alice together will be a really interesting duo to watch.
Okay, well listen, today is probably the most sprinty, if that's a word. I've just claimed it as a word. Anyway, it's the most sprinty and straightforward, yeah, the sprintiest day on the race. So that means Kirsten Wild, doesn't it?
To me, it definitely means Kirsten, and she's a super smart bike racer. She'll sit in the peloton exactly where she needs to sit to save every bit of energy she can. And as long as her team are in a good position at the finish, it's a slightly technical finish. There's lots of corners in the last kilometre, and so if they can get her to the right place, then she is the fastest rider, you know, in a straight line right now. So I would put money on Kirsten Wild or possibly Jolene Dorr from Wiggle, because they're very well drilled lead out for their riders.
Okay, two to watch from Helen. Let's have a look at the route map, and watch out in particular for the second Queen of the Mountains, which I understand has a 0% gradient. Fact. Stage 1 looks, at least on paper, the most straightforward. It's a 132-kilometre direction-shifting rattle through the lowlands of Suffolk and Norfolk, with notional Queen of the Mountains at Halesworth and Homersfield, but these are little more than gentle rises in the tarmac. Through Lowestoft they head inland before hotspot sprints at Beccles and then Pulham Market, After that, it's north towards the city centre finish in Norwich, close to the marketplace and Guildhall. There's a testing ramp, though, in the final 150 metres, which will make the sprint not entirely straightforward. Stage 1 of the Aviva Women's Tour rolls out from Southwold on the Suffolk coast. With its sandy beach and hut-lined promenade, there are few seaside towns as quintessentially British as Southwold. The Blue Flag beach is popular with holidaymakers in all seasons, but it's during the summer that the town comes alive, providing a wonderful holiday environment for people of all ages. The tour travels through some of Suffolk's most spectacular scenery before heading north. With picturesque villages and historic market towns set amongst beautiful countryside, South Norfolk is a wonderful location to get away from it all. The riders will be hoping to get away as they head towards the spectacular finish in Norwich. A popular destination for a city break, Norwich is a thriving regional capital with a year-round calendar of events and festivals. Take in the history and heritage, relax with a river cruise or a stroll around the city's beautiful cathedral quarter. So that's set the scene for you. We'll take a very short break, and when we come back, we'll get the race underway.
Aviva, proud sponsor of the Aviva Women's Tour 2016.
91 riders waiting to start stage 1 of the Aviva Women's Tour. They will pedal 138 kilometres today from Southwold in Suffolk to Norwich, the most easterly city in the United Kingdom. World champion Lizzie Armitstead will dearly be hoping to outwit the star-studded field at the end of the 621 kilometres over the next 5 days. Last year's winner, Lisa Brunner, and Olympic road race champion and winner of the first edition of this tour, Mariana Voss, are in the lineup, along with world time trial champion Linda Willemsen. The field is embroidered with global talent, including 12 national champions and the leading teams of the world. Well, assisting me with the commentary this year is Sarah Connolly, who I know is really looking forward to the action.
This is probably one of the most exciting fields I've seen all year. It's the 10th round of the UCI's Women's World Tour. It's the first time they've had this competition, and this race always makes riders very excited, but this year in the World Tour it's even bigger, even better.
Well, the magnetism of the event once again has generated so much interest. All the kids are out, they love it, an opportunity to get out of the classroom. And of course, people that are down this part of the world on holiday, they've all turned out to see the start of the tour. Well, the race is actually threading its way now towards Adnams Brewery. It's got a long, rich heritage with this part of the world and has brewed the beer on this site for the last 670 years. And this year they are sponsoring the Best British Rider Jersey classification.
This is going to be an incredibly tense moment for them. They know that this is the first sprint, one of the few sprint stages they've got in the race, because it's a very hilly, rolling race we've got this year. There's some really interesting climbs going to parts of the country this race has never seen before.
And what about all the teams? I mean, we have got the creme de la creme here, haven't we? All these national champions are lined up. And also on the mind will be Rio, so a lot of riders will they be thinking outside of the loop and not too bothered in the event?
Oh, they are absolutely thinking about Rio. Apart from teams like the Netherlands and then smaller countries where they've got the obvious riders, like Emma Johansson for Sweden, for example. This is one of the last chances riders have to say to their team selectors that they can go to Rio and ride in the Olympic Games.
It's great, isn't it, to see Mariana Voss back after last year. She was sidelined through injury and illness, but now she's back and she's starting to get her form together.
Yeah, Voss had such a terrible year last year. She suffered from hamstring injuries, then overtraining and various problems with recovery, and she had to miss the cyclocross season this winter. We hardly saw her last year, except for when she was actually here as a commentator last year, even though she couldn't race. She's had an interesting time. She's been coming back very slowly. The team have been looking after her very carefully. She's been named as a rider who can go to Rio already, and she's proved that she's worth that with a stage win at the Amgen Tour of California last month, and she's just coming on doing better and better all the time. So this is going to be the real first chance we've got to see how will she do in a long stage race. Are her recovery issues solved, and is she back to her top form?
There are all the school children I was talking about. Well, let me just tell you how the race works. Apart from the overall general classification, there are other competitions that riders will be teeing themselves up for. Every day there are 2 climbs in the Strada Queen of the Mountains, and there is also 2 sprints, and they count towards the Chain Reaction Cycles points jersey. So all that to look forward to, and we are getting very, very near to the end of what has been quite a long neutralised zone.
Yeah, this is the time where the riders just basically getting their legs warmed up, getting out of the difficult start line. But here at the race start, this is when the race really begins.
And on the mind of the riders, of course, will be that the first climb in the Tour this year comes after just 12.1 kilometres. It's only 0.7 kilometres long, but anybody that's going to tee themselves up for a tilt at trying to win the Strava Queen of the Mountains will be trying to get themselves near the front. We saw a good shot there of Lisa Brenneur, who's the defending champion, and she's coming into this event in very good form.
Yeah, Lisa Brenneur, she's riding for Canyon SRAM. They've had a hard year this year with one of their key riders, Trixie Warwick, actually involved in a horrible crash earlier in the year where she actually lost her kidney.
Well, on the left there you can see riders from Rabo Live, also Bols Dolman. Now here's a chance just to see what we can expect for the first climb. It's near Halesworth, but there it is. It threads its way over 0.7 of a kilometre, but there's a segment of the final 0.4, and it's a 5% gradient. So, well, it's only short, but at least it does set up the competition. It's not exactly a leg breaker, but it will be interesting to see who is going to have a crack. What do you think, Sarah?
Yeah, we've got some very good climbers in here. The riders like Ashley Mullen, Passio, for example, and then who's very good at long climbs, and Katie Hall from United Healthcare. But we've also got riders like Lizzie Armitstead and Mariana Voss, who are very good at those short, sharp climbs. And of course, Emma Pooley coming back from retirement. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Are we going to see them, or are they going to hold their fire for later on in the race?
Well, one of the British riders at the back here, Emily Kay, doesn't particularly look very happy. She is a track rider, so we'll have to see how she gets on. Well, we've started the climb now, and it's as we leave the village of Halesworth, and that's mentioned in the Doomsday Book. The town actually dates back from the Middle Saxon period. But Emily Kay doesn't look comfortable. She's a former World Junior Team Pursuit champion. Of course, riders like Kay, they don't get very many opportunities to ride on the road, particularly in a class field like this.
And we can see an attack there going up on the left-hand side, and that looks like a Park Hotel Valkenburg rider. Oh, she's really trying it here.
Yeah, distancing herself off the front. So the rider from Park Hotel Valkenburg with an advantage here. It does kick round with a sharp turn near the top as they approach the line, and it looks like this Dutch rider has done enough to tidy this one up. The line is very, very close. Yes, we will confirm that, but it does look a bit like Hoeksma to me, and in second place one of the riders from Orica AIS.
Yes, that'll be Taylor Wiles. She's an American rider riding for the Australian team, and she's one of the riders who's got her eye on Rio.
Right, well, there is the result confirmed. It was Hoeksma then that picks up the 6 points from Wiles. Klein in third place. Just tidying up the other three, it was Scandalora in fourth spot, Hall fifth, and Slick in sixth position. So that's the first climb over in the Strava Queen of the Mountains, and the leader in this early stage is Hoeksma of the Netherlands. Still a long, long way to go, and the whole field still together.
Yes, that wasn't the major big climber names you'd expect to see, which is very interesting. We'll have to see where they turn out for the second climb later on in the day.
Well, at the moment, the race is bathed in sunshine, so these are perfect conditions for the event. Lots more to come. We'll take a break.
Aviva, proud sponsor of the Aviva Women's Tour 2016.
Well, welcome back, and the whole field are still all together, and we're getting towards Beccles. That's the first in the Chain Reaction Cycles points jersey sprint, and you can see on the graphic exactly where we are. It is coming through that Emily Kay has abandoned. There it is confirmed. We saw in the first part that she was struggling at the back, and now she's climbed off.
It's a very difficult race for these young riders, and you can see that they're really struggling sometimes with this very big peloton. For these young British riders, it might be the biggest race they've ever ridden here.
That's Willemsen, we just got a glimpse of, who is the world time trial champion. But some of the big riders will be thinking about this first sprint, because let me tell you, not only are points available 3, 2, 1, there are bonuses of 3 seconds, 2 seconds and 1 second, and that can be very, very important.
The teams take these intermediate sprints so seriously. You'll often see some big attacks coming in front of them, because these general classification seconds, it can make or break an entire race.
Well, we'll be looking out for the sprinters like Mariana Voss,
and also riders such as Lizzie Armitstead in the World Championship stripes. She'd like to try and pick up a few seconds, and you can see that the tempo is beginning to ramp up now as riders start to position themselves near the front.
Yes, we can see on the front Ashley Milman Passio leading out Lotta Lepisto, a very bright young sprinter from Finland there.
Yeah, Lepisto is the national champion of Finland. One or two riders from drop cycling here at the back, but you can see now the tempo beginning to whip up and riders are watching each other very closely.
Yeah, that's Liv Panter on the front, and they've got two very good, very young riders, Leah Kirkman from Canada and Floortje Mackay, who you can just see on the left, the young Dutch talent.
So it's getting very, very close now to this first sprint in Beccles, which I can tell you is a former Saxon seaport, and they have decorated the roads all the way round here, and the crowds have flocked to the side to see these riders sprint it out.
Yes, we can see the various sprint zones lining up on both sides of the road there. You can see Rabo Liv on the front, Wiggle High Five, but Liv Planteur very, very careful there, and Bulls Dolmans in that distinctive orange kit.
Rabo Liv, of course, will be looking after the interest of Mariana Voss, the winner of the first edition of the Women's Tour, and Lizzie Armitstead in the World Stripes will be getting a lead out from her teammates on the Bulls Dolmans team. But at the back, riders are beginning to cling to the coattails here as the pace really does beginning to whip up. Orica AIS has started to take closer order in the middle as well, and this looks very much to me like Grace Elvin getting involved. Now then, can anybody challenge? On the right it is Voss. Voss beginning to turn the screw. Voss just about got that on the line ahead of Elvin. We'll wait for third to be tidied up, but Armitstead was definitely in the mix there.
Yes, we can see here these riders have really put down their markers for their general classification ambitions. Voss wants this race, and after her crash in last year's race, Armitstead wants to take this too.
Well, there we are. The caption confirmed that Voss picked up the 3 seconds from Elvin the 2 and Armitstead the 1. But what it does tell us there, Sarah, is that the big guns are certainly conscious of how useful these seconds are going to be.
Absolutely, and it's good to see riders like Gracie Elvin really do this. Elvin has such a fantastic season this year, really stepping up. She's been one of those riders who's really made a whole load of important races this year.
Well, the field just settling down now after that very quick sprint. Just caught a glimpse of the Belgian champion, Jolene Dor, and Dor is another rider that is likely to figure in the sprints. And there's a certain amount of bunching up. Oh, we've got a crash on the right. Oh my goodness me, 4 or 5, 6 riders have gone down there.
Oh, that's nasty. That looks like an Orica rider, someone from Rabo Liv, and I think that's Alison Tetrick from Silans just on the floor there.
It is, number 126. That is Tetrick, the 31-year-old American. I'm pleased to say that nobody is seriously hurt. But that's what happens when you're using the full width of the road. One rider will just touch another, and then down you go. So the rider delayed is from Orica AIS. I can tell you that's number 72, Elvin, who was involved in that sprint, and her teammate Manley, number 73. Now then, we're getting on to the second in the Strava Queen of the Mountains challenge, and this is at Homersfield. And we could show you the graphic just to see what it's like in the closing stages. You can see it's shown here at 2.5 kilometres, but the actual length of the climb is 3.2, and it ramps up towards the end.
Yeah, there's not too many hills in this part of the country, are there? We're quite flat, but it's still tough. It's very heavy road.
Well, the winner of the first climb was Hoeksma, and her teammates lifting the pace at the front here, so they're obviously going to try and add more points to her teammates' tally.
Yeah, this is Park Hotel Valkenburg. They're a very small team, one of the smallest teams in the race, I'd say, but they're really making the most of the opportunity they have here.
Well, I must admit the demands on the climb are certainly not desperate, because it doesn't kick up very steeply. But there we are, they've started on the foot slopes, but the actual line that they'll be sprinting for is 3.2 kilometres away.
Yes, and we can see those Park Hotel riders. They don't want to let any other teams have the opportunity here. But United Healthcare are going out, and they'll be going for Katie Hall, who got points earlier on in the race.
Yeah, United Healthcare right on the front now in the blue and white, and it was Catherine Hall that was 5th in the first climb, so she picked up a couple of points there.
Yeah, we can see on the back we've got the very smallest team in the race. Drop Cycling, a young British squad, development squad, again making the most of their chances here.
And also Orica AIS are there, and Taylor Wiles, the American, was second to the line in the first climb. So obviously Wiles is going to try and outpace Hoeksma here.
Yes, Orica with their distinctive blue and green helmets on the front there, the white, blue and green of the Australian team.
And the sprinters, well, they're lying low here. The ones that contested the bonuses, that's Voss, Elvin and Armitstead, they're not getting involved here with this.
No, and it looks like the really big climbing names aren't here either. These aren't the riders that you'd expect to see in a climb, although I can see Amanda Spratt in the Australian National Champions jersey just there. She's a very strong climber, but this isn't going to tax her too hard.
Well, when they do get to the summit of this climb, there'll be 65 kilometres left of racing, so there's still a lot to play for in this lovely, lovely leafy section of the course. Excellent surface, ideal for fast racing, and I'm pleased to say that it is still dry, although there is evidence on the left there of an earlier shower.
Yes, and once we see the end of this climb, we're going to come into the contest between the breakaway riders and the teams who really, really want this to come down to a bunch sprint today.
So spreading all over the road here and beginning to gather themselves for the charge for the line at the top. Keep your eye out for Hooksma, number 103. She's right up there in the mix, but we've got an early strike here for the line and still quite a long way to go to it.
Yes, that's Liv Planteur again in the front, the black and white kit with the green helmet there.
And they're echeloning away to the right here, and the riders you can see on the extreme left, just keeping them on their left shoulder, trying to look after their teammates. Now then, it's Ella Cipollini in the bright Dayglow yellow colours that come to the front.
Yes, they're better known as a sprint team. They're the biggest Italian team in the circuit, and they're pretty much all entire sprinters. But they'll be trying to take any opportunity they can.
Yeah, and there's nobody wants to take it on at the moment. And the team of Ella Cipollini, their leader is Bastianelli, who's a former world champion. So Bastianelli is likely to figure in the sprints towards the end of the stages. It's a little bit like chess on wheels here, isn't it? They're all trying to encourage each other to take on the pace setting. Orica AIS still evident there near the front.
Yes, that's Amanda Spratt there with the green and gold of the National Champions jersey round her arms. And you can see there's no one really wanting to actually make that first move, because they know that as soon as one person goes, everyone's likely to follow.
And Spratt will be looking after Wiles, the American, who was, I said, second on the first climb. And it is a long one, this. 3.2 kilometres, but it doesn't lip up too steeply. But it's Orica AIS taking it on, but it's immediately passed by Hooksma, and Hooksma over the line. Look at that, she gives a victory salute. I can't believe it. So Hooksma takes 6 points to add to the 6 she got at the first climb, as we confirm the rest of the places. But what it will mean is that Hooksma will be on the podium in Norwich at the end to collect the first Strava Queen of the Mountains jersey.
Yes, and with sprinter Marta Bastianelli in second place, Taylor Wise again in third, and Valentina Scandalara, Katie Hall and Anna Trevisi taking the rest of the points there.
Well, I think we can detect here there is a sense of urgency starting to creep into this race now. The majority of the field are still all together, but they're getting towards the second sprint now. Problem here at the back, we've got a rider with a problem. This is Demay. Demay was the delayed rider.
Yes, she's from Poitou Charentes for a Futuroscope, the French team. Oh, and she's really not looking happy about that, doing her bit to get the mechanic to get that wheel on as soon as she can, as soon as the car gets there. But it's a long wait there.
She's losing a lot of time, isn't she, waiting there for the replacement wheel. And here it is.
Yeah, this is always a very tough moment for a rider. It's almost as much about keeping their cool as it is about how fast they can get back to the peloton, isn't it?
Well, she'll have a job on her hands there to try and link up to the peloton, because we're now getting very near to the second sprint, and this is in Fulham Market, and this comes after 84.5 kilometres of racing. Remember, it was Mariana Voss that tidied up sprint number 1 from Elvin and Armitstead. Now then, who's going to get the 3 seconds, 2 seconds and 1 second bonus here?
Yes, we're going to see Bowles Dolmans in that orange jersey there. They're massing on the front there, and with Lizzie Armitstead just in second wheel.
Yeah, Armitstead's keeping her eye on the opposition, but there's a move now starting to develop on the far left. This is the delayed rider, Coralie Demay, and you are allowed to do that actually, so she's taking a little bit of pace behind the car.
Yes, but up at the front end of the race, we've got a small bunch there, and they're really going for it. That's Liv Planteur with the green helmets there. And wow, they're really taking this fast.
Yeah, that is a split. It's fractured, and this little group has gone clear, and it means they're going to contest the sprint to the line. Oh, Three in a line there. Kirchman, the Canadian on Team Liv Planteur, looked to have snatched that one. I'll wait for the result to confirm the other two places. Yes, it was Kirchman. Chantel Black got second, and Grace Elvin, who was second in the first sprint, picked up a 1 second bonus for third there.
Yes, that's very good for Elvin, because we saw her go down in the crash earlier, but clearly it hasn't affected her too much.
Well, the whole field all together, thank you very much. She gives a friendly wave. Thanks for the tow. I'm back up, coming up to the tail of the peloton. So, Coralie de May will be breathing a sigh of relief. Thank goodness I haven't got to ride all the way to Norwich on my own.
Yeah, she'll get there, but it's not. But her biggest fear, of course, is that by the time she gets there, more riders will have gone off the front.
Well, we'll have to wait and see whether that is the case. But they've eased off dramatically now. Rabo Liv are not far from the front, and we've got a rider from Great Britain right in the middle. And on the right, it looks like riders are starting to prepare for an attack. And it's one of the riders from Silence Pro Cycling.
Yes, that looks like Alison Tetrick, one of their American riders, and she's got a very good time trial on her. So if she can get away, she's got a really good chance.
And she was on the floor a few kilometres ago.
Yeah, these riders are tough. They don't let anything stop them.
Well, she certainly hasn't. So Tetrick has got about 20 kilometres to try and stay clear. Now then, I can tell you she's a pretty handy time trialer, so once she has got herself clear and settled down to her rhythm, it may help. We'll be back. Welcome back, and we've still got a sizable group here now heading towards the finish in Norwich, and we are inside 10 kilometres to go, and we've still got the lone leader, Alison Tetrick, this 31-year-old American who had a lead of 1 minute and 56 seconds, but it is now starting to tumble.
Yes, Alison Tetrick, she's a time trialist, so all she has to do right now, she's used to riding solo, all she has to do right now is get her head down, try not to think about what can happen. We think at this point she should be able to make it, but this is a lot of big sprint trains chasing. Yeah, there's Rabo Liv on the front in the orange and white, and at 1:33 the gap's really dropping, and that's Danny King of Wiggle High Five there in the third wheel.
And they're obviously going to be looking after the sprint interests of Mariana Voss. That'll be the aim of the Rabo Liv riders on the front, to try and deliver the Olympic champion to the line. So the lead falling all the time. You saw the last caption to tell us it was just 1 minute and 33 seconds. She is surely living on borrowed time.
Yes, she went with about 20k to go, so she's halfway through this personal time trial there. Silence is a brand new team this season, and they've only just recently won their first race of the year in America last week, so she really needs this for the team.
Well, Tetrick was a former college tennis player and a triathlete, and it's quite interesting how she was picked up.
Yes, although she comes from a very big sporting family, her grandfather Paul has got about a dozen national titles, including winning a national age group championships in age 84, and her father was an American football player and then became a mountain biker. But Tetrick hadn't actually done cycling herself until she attended a USA Cycling Talent ID camp back in 2008.
Well, that's Roxanne Knaterman now coming through onto the front, and you can quickly start to think about the sprinters that these riders are working for. Should this go right down to the wire and the teams will be relying on the sprinters, then Wiggle High Five will be relying on Jolien Dort, the Belgian national champion, and Giorgia Bronzini, the Italian, who's been a double world champion. They will be there, big guns, to try and nail the stage victory.
Yes, we've got some of the best women's sprinters in the world here. Kirsten Wild, who's the powerhouse of Dutch sprinting, is riding here for high-tech products. We've got Barbara Gurischi, who you may remember from winning the Ride London GP last year, and riders like Lotta Lepisto and all the Ale Cipollini Italian sprint specialists.
And of course, speculating on the finish, it's very, very technical as they come into Norwich. They've got losts and twists and turns, so it's all about positioning yourself in the right spot. And being ahead like this, if she could just hang on to it, that would be the right spot to be.
Oh yes, and as a time trialist, those technical sections aren't going to be in her favour. She likes these long straight roads that she's got at the moment, so she's going to need to build up as much time as possible. But this gap just keeps dropping.
Yeah, it's coming down all the time. The peloton are now fully energised behind, and you can see the little thin line beginning to form. They're looking over the shoulders to see who else is going to start to come through and to share the workload. The kilometres are being eroded away, and on the rack now is the lone leader. For how much longer?
Yes, and you can see the green jersey of her silenced teammates right up the front there, because they've got plenty of other options there. What they're doing is if Tetrick gets caught, they're going to make their own moves again.
Well, there we are. That's the aerial view of the city of Norwich. 5 kilometres to go. Tenaciously, she's hanging on to this advantage. Her shoulders are beginning to roll a little bit, but it's still 1 minute and 21 seconds. That is a very useful window of advantage.
Yes, that's something that she could really keep there, but look at them chase her. They're really working well together, this peloton. They're really wanting to catch her there.
And on the front now, it's Team Live Planteur. They're going to be looking after the interests of Leah Kirchmann. Should it come down to a sprint, if they can get Kirchmann, the Canadian, into position. She's already been showing her sprinting spurs earlier because she picked up the 3 seconds bonus at the second sprint at Pullham Market.
Yes, and they've really got an advantage here because they've also got a second really strong rider in Fletcher Mackay, who's been winning Best Young Rider jerseys for the last couple of years.
So these are all names to put in the mix should the lead rider be pulled back, but she's offering a very, very big effort here, and the peloton, they're not properly organised here. Occasionally a team will come through to try and set it up for their sprinter, then they'll ease back, and then of course she'll profit from that. 4 kilometres to go now. Well, this is her real nail-biter.
Yes, what Tetrick is going to be hoping, and what her director sportif in the car is going to be saying, is that they're hoping that they're just not going to be working together. And now that's Ellen van Dijk on the front for Boels Dolmans. She's known for this. She's one of the biggest, toughest riders, former ITT world champ, and when she gets on the front to chase down, you know you're in trouble.
That's right, and you've already said a former world time trial champion, so she's not bothered about company. So on the front is Van Dijk, then the world road champion Armitstead. Then in the wheel of Armitstead was Christine Majerus, the Luxembourger, who actually clinched the stage last year and finished 3rd overall. Look at the crowds here. The school kids really urging on the lone leader, Tetrick.
Yeah, and you can see by the way her head is bobbing up and down that she's really suffering right now. But all those cheers are going to be giving her wings.
Her style is getting a little ragged now, but still they're not in a long, thin line. They're still looking across to say, come on, are you going to help me with the chase here? So that really does underpin the quality of this effort then by the 31-year-old, who is still ahead, and it's getting nearer and nearer to the finish.
Yeah, it's 4k to go for the peloton, and it's really looking like maybe she can't do it. But with the gap dropping to a minute over 4k, what's going to happen here?
Yeah, it's pegged at 60 seconds now, and you saw the face of Van Dijk. She really has got the race face on now as she's levering those pedals over and trying to turn the big gear. They are sharing the workload at the front. It looks like Lizzie Armitstead's starting to come through as well.
Yes, Lizzie Armitstead and Van Dijk, and I think they're working for Christine Majerus, who you can see in the Luxembourg champions jersey, blue and red stripes, just 4th wheel back. I think they're working for her.
And also the rider from Orica AIS starting to come through on the right as well, and they've been figuring strongly in the sprints. They've had Elvin, who has had a 2nd and a 3rd in the Chainreact Cycles points jersey competition.
Yes, and there's Orica there. There's Elvin, you can see the rips on her shoulder from when she came down in that crash earlier in the race.
Well, Van Dijk on the extreme right, and you can see now that the field are filling out the whole width of the road, and still stubbornly hanging on to the lead is Tetrick. But for how much longer, you've got to keep asking the question. But the teamwork of Boels Dolman here is very evident, with Van Dijk on the front and then Armitstead looking after the sprint interests of Majerus. It's not bad really, is it, having a world champion as a domestique?
Oh yeah, world champion, former world ITT champion. This is the thing about Boels Dolmans. They've been phenomenally successful this year, winning 7 out of 9 of the current World Tour races. But one of that is they all work for each other, and every rider knows that no matter how much she works for her teammates, she'll get her chance too.
Look at the power here now. The pressure really is on at the front. 4 riders from the Boels Dolman team, and it's only 2 kilometres to go. 2,000 metres of racing left to tidy up this first stage of 138 kilometres, the 2nd longest stage of this year's tour.
Yes, and this is the part that Tetrick's really going to suffer on.
Well, look at that. Riders are overshooting the bend there. That was quite a wide left-hander, but you saw riders actually going down the slip road to the right.
Yeah, and at this point, with only 45 seconds there, any tiny mistake like that can really make or great this race.
You said it, 45 seconds the advantage, and they are getting now into the technical section where there are one or two lefts and rights. That could actually play into the hands of the leader.
Oh yes, the problem is behind her, those riders like Majerus, Lucinda Brown from Rabobank, they live for these kind of technical finishes and they're just going to be relishing it. Whereas for a time trialer, although she's by herself, it might be hard. And look at her, she's struggling there.
Yeah, shoulders are beginning to waver a little bit as she sees in front of her the Flamme Rouge, 1 kilometre to go. Now then, can she get round this left-hander? Because once she's out of sight, then the peloton, of course, might just forget about her momentarily. Coming up to the left-hander now. Tetrick takes it. Where are the peloton?
Yes, and we know back there they're going to be fighting. We saw earlier the team of Kirsten Wild, high-tech products there, waiting to push. And she's just going to be hoping that they're just looking at each other and waiting for someone to make a mistake.
Well, there's the aerial shot. You can see our leader and the peloton are not in sight.
And they're coming through these corners. This is so exciting. She's nearly got this. This would be the biggest win of her career if she can make it.
Yes, and she knows that as well. I wonder what's going through her mind. Surely she must think, I'm going to get swept up. I can't believe this. Getting a generous round of applause then from the spectators on the left as she's heading on towards the next turn.
Yeah, every single pedal stroke must hurt like crazy at this point, but she's keeping going.
Yep, she's coming up to this next left-hander. Well, it's an arc, really. It arcs round, and then there's quite a sharp turn. And the peloton, remember, they're going to have to handle these, and they'll need to be extra vigilant. Now then, coming up to the sharp left that I was just mentioning. Now then, can she get round this? The line is getting very, very close. Tenaciously, then she comes around, and it's very, very narrow here, trying to find a little bit more pace.
Yes, this is exactly what we mean when we say a technical finish. Lots of corners, lots of tight corners for a peloton that's going to find it very difficult here.
And it ramps up slightly there, and we've got 2 more corners, a right and a left. And that is all that stands between this rider, Alison Tetrick, and the win of her life. Well, 100 metres to go, and there are the peloton round the corner. And leading it out is Majerus, the Luxembourger, who's just ahead of Voss. And they've got round Tetrick, and the line comes for Majerus to take the victory from Voss, and in third place Bronzini, the Italian. Fourth over the line there was Bastianelli. But what a spirited effort there by Alison Tetrick, who nearly wrote the story of the day.
Imagine getting caught with just 100 metres to go. That's so brave. And look at Majerus there. She's tired. That's been a very hard effort for her too, taking that.
Here's the closing stages again. Just talk us through this, Sarah.
You can see Majerus. She's just taken that corner very fast with Voss behind her. And when you're so much faster than Voss in a technical finish like that, you know you're good. It's a small group there. They're just so close.
Confirmation of the stage result. Victory to Christine Majerus, beating Mariana Voss, and third, Giorgia Bronzini. What a finish that was. And there is a very, very happy stage winner, Christine Majerus. The leader of the Strava Queen of the Mountains is Ilona Hoeksma. Leader in the chain reaction cycles points jersey classification, Christine Majerus. And the yellow jersey, the Aviva yellow jersey, going to Majerus.
Really strong finish again. Rabobank weren't terribly pleased at the end. They objected. The commissaires looked at the footage and the result stands. But do you understand their objections at all?
Yeah, I mean, it's always a hectic finish. I mean, that kind of stage finishes kind of is predictable that we are touching each other. As for my side, I think I did fair play. I mean, there were also motorbikes in the last 150 meters, so I also had to avoid things. And I mean, that sprint finish, if you're afraid, then you should not go in the sprint finish.
I had a gap to pass on the left side, and the gap got closed. So yeah, for me that was disappointing not to be able to sprint properly. But well, yeah, in the end, from the last corner on, everybody had his own space, and then it was clear that Christine was winning.
So overall leader Christine Majerus. At 1 second is Marianne Voss. Third is Giorgia Bronzini at 6 seconds. Lizzie Armitstead is 12th at 18 seconds.
Well, before Helen and I try and pick the bones out of that, I think probably it's best for all concerned if we fess up a little bit to our wildly inaccurate prediction about Kirstenwild. We thought it was a flat sprinter stage. It wasn't.
No, absolutely. And you know, we have the same information that the teams have, and if you're not a huge team, you don't have the budget to necessarily recon the stage, and all you have is that profile, and the profile did look flat. So it shows what everyone's experiencing the same thing. And unfortunately, Kirsten was actually involved in an accident, a crash in the last kilometre. So yeah, she couldn't have won.
Yeah, Lisa Brennauer, also last year's overall winner, crashed. And there were time gaps all the way across the line because of that hard couple of 100 metres climb up to the finish line. I mean, Lizzie Armitstead lost a bit of time, so too did Emma Johansson. Was that significant?
I don't think it's very significant because I've been talking to a lot of the riders and they said that the intermediate sprints were super fast, and that's where people are getting time bonuses on the flatter days as well as the hilly days. And as soon as we hit the hills, I think you'll see big differences, and so the riders won't be concerned after the first stage. They'll be more concerned on the final day, really.
Now, what about this little ding-dong between Christina Majerus and Mariana Voss? Can you see both points of view? I mean, Mariana, she wasn't happy, was she, when she crossed the line?
Yeah, absolutely. And you have to remember that these are professional cyclists. This is their job, and it's their job to win. And Mariana is, as much as anyone, a consummate winner. So for her, when something's out of your control and it affects your race, it's obviously a lot more frustrating than if it's something you did yourself. So I think when they both watch the television back and they see what happened, then maybe they'll come to a calmer reflection on it. And Mariana is, like I say, a really nice, genuine person, and like she said in the interview, it's a racing incident.
Yeah. Well, what have we learned from today? Firstly, don't listen to a word that Helen and I say at the beginning of the stage. Also, that Mariana Voss is back to her best, and Christina Majerus is right where she was last year, a stage winner and in the yellow jersey. Can she defend it though in Warwickshire tomorrow? We'll find out, and join us at 9 p.m. for highlights of stage 2.